Last time, steel learned our names. The wall of conduit stood straight, clamps tight, junction boxes lined like ribs. Harris said bones do not forgive. Today he pointed at the small devices that people touch every day and said these are where a building meets a hand. If we make a mistake here, the metal does not scream. A person does. The benches were cleared. Trays of devices waited in perfect rows. Duplex receptacles, GFCI receptacles, a few AFCI breakers for comparison, tamper-resistant outlets with shuttered faces, single-pole and three-way switches, one four-way, a dimmer, a torque screwdriver, wire strippers, a multimeter, a simple 3-light tester, pigtails coiled like little commas, green ground screws, and a stack of cover plates that looked harmless until you imagined smoke curling from their edges. Harris stood behind the trays like a surgeon at the table. Harris's paper gave you orders. Steel gave you bones. Its devices give you consequences. What is polarity? To brass neutral to silver, ground to green. He slid a duplex toward me and tapped each screw with the tip of his driver. Brass on the hot side. Silver on the neutral side. Green at the yoke. I felt the rules settle in the way a bend line settles under your boot. Maria, and if we flip hot and neutral, reverse polarity, the metal shell of a lamp goes hot, not the center contact. Touch the shell in a sink, and you learn voltage through your ribs. Harris, remember that. People do not forgive reversed polarity either. He pointed at the small brass link on the duplex. Harris, what is the tab? I hesitated, a feed-through link. Break the tab on the brass side, and you can split the receptacle. Sometimes top half switched, bottom half always hot. Don't break the silver tab unless the wiring and handle-tied breakers demand it. If you snap the wrong tab, you replace the device. You do not glue back your mistake. Maria cracked a smile and twirled a green pigtail like a piece of spaghetti. Maria ground first, always. Bond the metal box, then the device. The ground is the last offense, so we connect it first. He placed a GFCI beside the duplex, the buttons sitting like two small eyes. Harris, line and load. X. Line is the incoming hot and neutral that feed the GFCI. Load is the downstream that you want protected. Reverse them, and the face may still power, but protection lies to you. Maria, so the test button is not a guarantee. It is a clue, not a contract. Confirm with a tester. He handed me a 3-light tester and nodded toward the mock-up wall. The training panel clicked on. 2 amber lights glowed. Correct polarity. He crooked a finger for me to speak the interpretation out loud. I did, and I hated how relieved I sounded. Harris. Now fail on purpose. I reversed hot and neutral for the next box and watched one light glow the wrong way. The legend on the tester told a short story about danger. We shut it down and corrected it, landing hot on brass, neutral on silver, ground to green, looped clockwise so the tightening screw pulls the copper in, not out. Maria, why clockwise? Because wrong direction pushes the loop away and leaves you with a loose connection that heats up. Heat travels faster than apologies. He replaced the duplex with a tamper-resistant face. Harris, why tamper-resistant? Because shutters keep foreign objects out. A house has 1,000 curiosities for a child. The shutter makes curiosity slower than survival. We moved to switches. Single pole with 2 brass screws. 3-way with 2 brass travelers and a dark common. A 4-way with 2 pairs of travelers passing through like a secret handshake. Harris. Name the parts common. Travelers ground. A dimmer is a control on the hot leg, not on the neutral, and it must match the load type and wattage. Ganging dimmers together derates them. Sometimes the fins come off. Remove the fin, reduce the rating, label it so no one guesses wrong later. Maria rolled the torque screwdriver in her palm. Maria, what about just tight enough by feel? Feeling is not a spec. Manufacturer torque is. Under tight, and the copper warms by friction. Over tight, and you crush the conductor or crack the device, use torque. Tools that look like toys bury careers. We practiced building pigtails, landing grounds first to the box, then to the device, tightening with the torque driver. Loops set clockwise. Strip length trimmed to the gauge so no copper peeks past a screw head. We checked box fill while we worked, counting conductors and pigtails in the device volume, so we never forced a forest of wires into a volume-sized foregrass. Harris? Quiz. Hot to neutral? Should read what? 120 volts. Harris. Hot to ground? 120. Harris? Neutral to ground? 0. If a neutral shows voltage to ground, something is loose, shared, backed, or simply wrong. You took us to the three-way mock-up. 2 switches controlling a hallway light. He touched the dark screw. Harris? Which one is this? Common. Travelers go on the other 2. We named them and then wired the pair. The light obeyed both switches like a secret only we knew. Maria exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for a week. He killed the power and set a GFCI into the first box of a pair. Landing line only. We energized and pressed test. It tripped. The lamp on the downstream box stayed lit because it had its own feed. He nodded and asked for protection to reach the second box. We de-energized, landed the load to feed the next box, labeled it, powered up, tripped the upstream, watched the downstream go dark. Harris. Why label? Because the next person to touch this must know it's protected. Words save lives when drawings are buried in drywall. We moved to a split receptacle example. Break the brass tab on the duplex. Leave the neutral silver tab intact. Hot feed pigtails to the switch common and the lower hot. The switched leg returns to the upper hot. Neutral stays continuous. Ground is bonded. The top half clicked on, and off with the switch. The bottom half stayed ready for the vacuum. It felt like a magic trick you were now responsible for. Maria, what about backwiring? Backstab relies on a spring that loosens with heat and time. A loose spring is an argument with a coroner. Use the screw terminals. He told us a story that tasted like ash. Cafe opened beautifully. All white plates and new paint. They backstabbed devices to save time. 6 months later, the owner smelled the story those springs had written. Warm plates, charred plastic, a line of outlets with crescent-shaped burns. 3 weeks of closure and every device replaced with screw-landed conductors and torque-checked. No one thinks about the spring after the first day. The fire does. We return to test discipline. Lockout, tagout. Confirm your meter on a known live source before and after. A silent panel is not a safe panel. Test before touch, test after install, test again when someone else has been in the room. Harris. What is the minimum you verify after installing any device? Polarity is right. Ground continuity exists. Torque is to spec. The cover is on. Straight, no conductor pinched, no yoke cocked. If GFCI is required, the device is GFCI and it's wired with line and load correct. The switch is 3-way, the common is on the dark screw, and travelers are where they should be. If a dimmer's in a gang box, the rating is derated and labeled. If box fill is exceeded, the box is changed or the splicing plan is changed. Then label at the panel so your signatures travel. We did a gauntlet where Harris barked orders until the multimeter felt like a second pulse. Wire a duplex correctly. Now reverse polarity intentionally and explain every light on the tester. Fix it. Wire a GFCI line only. Prove it trips and resets. Extend protection to the load. Label downstream. Prove it trips the downstream. Wire a split receptacle. Break the correct tab. Show top switched. Bottom always hot. Place the switch with the dimmer rated for the lamp type. Light. Derate correctly because we ganged it with a second switch. Explain heat. Show that box fill still passes. Install a 3-way pair. Identify the common without guessing by tracing the feed and load. Swap the common and show how it fails. Fix it and explain why travelers are not neutrals. Mount every cover plate straight because ugly is a kind of unsafe that calls the inspector SIs like a bell. Maria, what about accessibility and spacing? Devices must be reachable without moving furniture in required areas. Heights follow the project standard. Spacing follows the plan and code. Outlets too far apart invite extension cords, and cords invite heat under rugs and dust that burns. He quizzed us on little things that turn into big ones. Strip length per the device gauge. No copper hairs splayed from stranded wire under a screw. Use a back box or extension ring if the finish is too proud. Keep conductors below the yoke so a plate screw never bites a wire. Identify travelers by color or tape. So maintenance in 5 years does not become an archaeological dig. We worked until sweat ran into our eyes, then worked 5 minutes more to learn what our hands did at the edge of fatigue. Harris kept asking why. Why torque not feel? Why clockwise, not counterclockwise? Why ground first? Why line and load must be right on a GFCI, even if the face powers either way? Why you never trust a silent breaker? Why you never leave a hot device hanging out of a box? He told a story about a rental whose outlets felt loose. When tenants plugged in a heater, the landlord ignored it. Loose contacts arced under higher load. The plate browned, then blackened. A rug melted into shape, a small miracle that it did not light the room. Someone had used the word cosmetic to describe a tilted yoke. Harris said cosmetic is the first layer of safety. A straight device face doesn't pinch the plug just so. A snug device doesn't let the blades wiggle and arc. A labeled panel dose and T make a tenant turn off the wrong heater and leave the wrong one cooking. We closed the day by testing every device we had installed. The 3-light tester blinked its little grammar. The multimeter gave numbers that didn't lie. Maria called out voltages. I called out interpretations. Harris didn't smile, but he didn't correct us either. I wrote in my notebook as the room cooled. Hot to brass, neutral to silver, ground to green, loop clockwise, torque to spec, ground the box, not just the device. GFCI line and load in the right places, label downstream. Test and reset. 3-way means common plus travelers. Find the dark screw and prove the feed and load. Dimmer matches load type and is derated if ganged. Cut fins only when the instructions say so, and then write the new number where someone can read it later. Box fill is math, not vibes. Accessibility and spacing matter because cords are liars. Test before touch and after install. Covers on, screws straight, no device cockeyed. Promise made, promise kept. Maria leaned against the training wall, hair damp at the temples, voice smaller than usual. So devices are just tiny promises that can burn a building. Harris? Devices are where a hand meets your work. They are where a mother plugs a kettle, where a kid pushes in a nightlight, where a tired worker hits a switch and expects the room to light, not bite. If you do this part lazy, nothing else matters. He looked at the rows of white faces with their neat plates and level screws and labeled circuits. His voice dropped to the tone he used for sentences we would remember in a fire. Harris. Lesson 1. Polarity saves lives. Lesson 2. Protection belongs exactly where people are vulnerable. Lesson 3. Devices are not ornaments. They are promises. Keep them. We shut off the panel. The room fell quiet, except for the tick-tick of cooling metal. I realized the small tools had felt heavier than the conduit bender. The 3-light tester looked like a toy in the morning. It looked like a verdict now. Harris said, tomorrow we would chase liars. Some switches work until you move the travelers. Some GFCs power a circuit and protect no one because someone landed load where lines should be. Some outlets look fine until a heater tells the truth. We would hunt those lies and make them speak before they turn into heat and silence. Coming up next, episode 23. The switch that lies, the outlet that burns. Yesterday ended with devices sitting in neat rows, cover plates straight, polarity proven. Harris said outlets and switches are promises. Promises to mothers with kettles, to kids with nightlights, to workers who expect light instead of a bite. Devices are not ornaments. They are promises. Keep them. Today, he told us, we would meet the liars. The switches that work until they don't. The outlets that glow warm before they burn. Circuits lie. People lie. Devices lie. Worst of all. The workshop hummed with tension. The training wall still carried the outlets and switches we wired, but Harris had sabotaged some overnight. He folded his arms. Today you find lies before they find you. He pointed to a duplex. Maria, test her in. She plugged the 3-light tester. 2 ambers lit up. Correct polarity, she said. Harris, now touch the face. She did. It felt warm. Her brow furrowed. It looks fine. Looks our lies, Harris said. Loose connection inside. Tester reads truth on paper, but heat tells the real story. Inspect with eyes, but confirm with hands. What's the rule? Answered test, then touch, then trust. Correct. Never trust just the lights. He pointed at a GFCI. John, trip it. I pressed test. It clicked and reset. Harris shook his head. Now plug the downstream and test again. The downstream stayed live. My stomach dropped. What mistake? Harris asked. Line and load reversed, I said. Device powers, but no protection. And what happens then? People think they're safe. They aren't. Correct. A GFCI that lies is worse than none, Maria muttered. So buttons lie too. Everything lies, Harris said. Except torque, except voltage, except heat. He led us to a three-way switch mock-up. Comment on the wrong screw, he said. Operate it. I flipped one switch. The light came on. Maria flipped the other. The light stayed on. Harris's voice cut through. It looks fine until someone expects control. A stairwell stays lit or stays dark. Both kill.
What rule?
Identify the common, I said. Always, Harris replied. Dark screw is not decoration. It is the law. We kept testing. One receptacle gave open neutral. Another gave hot and ground reversed. Harris asked us to interpret each pattern of lights, but then added the warning. Legend is dictionary. Feel the box. Check torque. Look for scorch. He told us about a house fire from a space heater, plugged into a duplex that was loose. Backstabbed outlet looked fine. Tester showed fine. At 2 a.m., heat rose through carpet until it kissed a curtain. The family walked out barefoot into snow. House did not. Maria's voice was smaller. And all because someone saved 30 seconds on a screw. Yes. Lies begin in seconds. Fires end in silence. We practiced hunting lies until the wall felt alive with trickery. Harris barked rapid fire. Hot to brass. Always neutral to silver. Always. Ground to green. Always. What if tester shows open ground? Check bond. Box. Pigtail device. What if tester shows hot neutral reverse? Kill power. Rewire. Correct. Never ignore. What if tester shows correct, but face is warm? Screw. Backstab. Overload. Investigate deeper. Hours passed. Sweat rolled down my back, but my notebook filled with truths carved from lies. Harris stood at the end, his voice low. Lesson 1. Devices lie. Lesson 2. Testers tell grammar, but heat tells truth. Lesson 3. Promises are only as good as torque and eyes. You are lie hunters now. Hunt every box like it plans to burn you. Maria slumped against the wall. So tomorrow it's more lies. No, Harris said. Tomorrow you leave the safety of training? Tomorrow we go to the real site. Voices, dust, chaos, inspectors. You will wire where no one forgives. I looked at the wall of devices. Some shone straight and cold. Others carried scars we found too late. For the first time, I felt like the fight wasn't against steel or paper, but against silence itself. Coming next, EP24, The Inspector's Eye, The Silent Judge. Yesterday ended in lies. The switches that fooled us, the outlets that glowed warm though testers said all was well. Harris warned us that devices lie worst of all. You are lie hunters now. Hunt every box like it plans to burn you. Today he said we would meet the one who sees through every Letha inspector. Inspectors don't argue. They don't forgive. They fail you, and their silence is heavier than fire. The workshop looked more like a courtroom than a job site. Along the wall stood every device we had installed over the last 2 days. Duplexes, GFCIs, split receptacles, three-ways, dimmers, some straight, some crooked, some with hidden flaws Harris had planted. He folded his arms and said, Today you are the inspector. The inspector never blinks, Maria whispered. So we get to fail each other. Yes, Harris said. Better here than in front of the real judge. He handed me a clipboard. First rule. Inspectors don't touch tools first. They look. What do they see? I scanned the wall. One plate tilted. Screws misaligned. A yoke cocked just enough to make a shadow crooked. Ugly work, I said. And ugly is unsafe. I answered correct. Ugly invites eyes. Eyes find death. Maria leaned in. So inspectors hate crooked screws, because it leads them to real mistakes. Yes, Harris said. Straight work is safe work. Straight work is respect. We moved box by box. Harris barked. Spacing. Code minimum between receptacles. 12 feet in dwelling, I answered. Too far apart causes. Extension cords. Extension cords cause heat, trip hazards, fires, box fill. Calculate conductors, pigtails, devices, clamps. Stay under cubic inch rating, and if you overfill. 8. Insulation damage, failure. Accessibility devices must be reachable. No hiding behind cabinets, no burying boxes in drywall, and if buried, violation, fail. Fire waiting. Maria tugged at a GFCI plate. Label missing downstream. Correct, Harris said. Unlabeled protection is a lie waiting for trust. He pulled testers, meters, torque drivers. Harris had loosened screws, swapped neutrals, bent tabs the wrong way. Each discovery was a lesson. Maria found a backstabbed conductor. She pulled it free with 2 fingers. Why do people still do this? Because they think seconds are worth more than lives, Harris said. Inspectors fail at every time. I measured torque on one device. Too loose. The screw turned easily. Would an inspector check torque? Some do, Harris said. Most don't have to. Loose work shows itself in heat, in scorch marks, and smell. Inspectors smell lies before they see them. He told us about his first inspection as a journeyman. I was proud. Every device in, every cover straight. Inspector walked through silent. At the end, he tapped one box. It's too small for the splices inside. Fail. Entire run torn out. One box cost me 3 days and my pride. Inspectors are silent judges. They don't punish you. They'll punish your work. Maria shivered. So they're worse than you. They are me, without patience, Harris said. We practiced for hours, playing inspector against each other. Maria spotted an outlet too low. I found a switch with reverse travelers. Harris caught both of us missing a missing bonding jumper. Each mistake turned into a quiz. What is the rule before closing a wall? Inspector approval, I said. And if you close without approval, violation, tear it open. Tearing open causes. Lost time, lost trust, lost job. By dusk, the wall gleamed. Every screw aligned, every label in place, every device tested, torqued, straight. We stood back. Harris's voice dropped. Lesson 1. Inspectors see what you hide. Lesson 2. Ugly is unsafe. Lesson 3. Pass the inspection before the inspector arrives. Work like every box will be judged tomorrow, 'cause it will. Maria leaned against the wall, exhausted. So next time we'll have a real inspector. No, Harris said. Next time we have something worse. The job site itself, voices shouting, orders crossing, dust blinding, communication breaks faster than wires. And one wrong word will burn faster than a short. I looked at the silent wall, every device a promise, every plate a verdict. For the first time, I understood Harris's truth. The inspector isn't a person. The inspector is the work itself, and it never forgives. Coming up next, episode 25, Voices in Dust, Orders in Chaos.